Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Where is he, Mr. Dana White? Let's go! Come on, Tony Robbins, baby! Let's go, right? I said we saw Tony Robbins last night. Get up, get in your state of mind. Get up, get up, get up. Dana.
Yes. How are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know,
I'm not going to do any crazy Tony Robbins stuff up here today.
No, that's okay. You know, you're making history this month.
Yeah.
There's something big happening.
Yeah, I'm excited. You know, I didn't realize how big UFC 100 was going to be until...
That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, what am I doing other than that?
It's your birthday.
It's my birthday. Yeah, that's true.
He's gonna turn 40. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Oh, keep singing. Come on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Turning 40.
I'm ready for it.
The man who caged pain. That's awesome. You want to say it? You want to stand? What do you want to do?
I don't care. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, let's talk about something you're extremely passionate about. Golf.
I hate golf.
Got off to a good start. How's your game? No, look, what did we see up here? Describe for me what we saw. And when you see that and you hear that, what goes through your head?
I think that, you know, over the last 9 years, me and my partners have gone out and basically educated everybody on what the UFC is, what a UFC athlete is. And then, like this Saturday, we'll go out and put on all the bells and whistles, and we sell the tickets, and we do all the hype. And then the athletes, the fighters, get in there and do what they do. And they're the reason that this is the most exciting sport in the world and the fastest growing sport in the world.
You believe that passionately, don't you?
No, it's a fact. It's a fact.
There's no counter-argument to that.
We, if you think about what we've accomplished in 9 years and how big it is, moving into all these other countries and all the things that are happening, and I mentioned about a month ago that we're working on a deal right now that's going to take this thing to a whole other level. It's over. Once we get this next deal done that we're working on right now, and I know for a fact we're going to get this deal done. It's over. It's there. And for this event here, you know, we've been trying to, the three no-brainers for me were the United States, Mexico, and the UK. Three big fight countries. I never saw Canada coming. I never realized Canada would be as big as it is. Canada is like a mecca for this thing right now.
Canada! Oh, Canada!
You see what I'm telling you, man? You guys are lunatics. I love it. You're everywhere. It's awesome. The Canadians are incredible. I never expected it to be that big. We've been trying to break into Mexico now for 9 years, and it's tough to navigate down there. We finally did. UFC 100 will air on Televisa, which is the biggest network in Mexico, free this Saturday to over 100 million homes in Mexico. We also just did a deal in China, you know, hundreds of millions of homes, and the whole global thing is happening a lot faster than I thought it would. And like I was saying, if you imagine how big we are right now, and everybody says how big it is. We haven't even scratched the surface of how big this thing is going to be in the United States, let alone the rest of the world, because the reality is we're not even close to being mainstream yet.
You know, it's amazing. You really can't blow something up like you're talking about until you get the biggest audience possible. Right. And one way to do that is you need a female audience. How did you break through? How did you make it so that they would buy tickets and go to this event? How'd you do that?
I'd love to tell you that I'm so smart. I came up with this great plan to bring female viewers in, and I didn't. This was a no-brainer for me. Males 18 to 34, that's who I was catering to. Much like Canada, I didn't see the female thing coming. Women got into it. You know how many people I meet where the husbands will say, my wife got me into this. You know, it happens all the time. I didn't see that coming. It's awesome.
Well, that's a great takeaway for business people too. You know, you don't have to know everything, do you?
No.
You just go.
God
right?
knows I don't know everything.
But you go. Let's go back a little bit, okay? I don't know if a lot of people know this. Prior to the Ultimate Fighting Championship, he was a successful businessman right here in Las Vegas. He was an aerobics instructor and owner. Did everybody know that? Oh, you did know that? Okay.
One guy.
Why did you get into that business?
Well, I wasn't really in the aerobics business. I taught boxing.
You ran, okay.
Yeah, I taught boxing, and I taught a boxing class.
Okay.
And I own 3 gyms.
Right.
So I've been involved in boxing since I was 19, and you know, that was part of the deal.
Yeah, and then you saw something happening on pay-per-view that I guess piqued your interest?
No, not at all. No, I bumped into a UFC fighter named John Lewis one night at the Hard Rock. Frank Fertitta and I, one of my partners, and Frank actually said, you know what, I've always wanted to learn ground fighting. And I said, me too. So we went over, we talked to John Lewis, and we set up an appointment to train with him in jiu-jitsu on Monday. And we invited Lorenzo. The 3 of us took a jiu-jitsu class, and that was it. And I tell people it's like taking the red pill in the Matrix. It opened my eyes to a whole new world, became addicted to it, started to meet some of the fighters, and I said, man, this thing's really interesting. I fell in love with it. Started managing Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. Got into this huge contract battle with the old owner of the UFC,
okay.
And then found out they were going out of business and they were done. So Frank and Lorenzo were in Miami at the time, and I called them and I said, the UFC might be for sale. I think we should buy it. And a month later, we owned it.
And things just went swimmingly after that. The rest is history, right?
Yeah.
Pay-per-view went through the roof.
Yeah.
The fights were fantastic.
Right.
The best fight cards ever, right? Tell me that's the truth, right?
You know, people say it's amazing, you know, what you've done in the last 9 years. It's only been 9 years. It feels like 90 years to me. You know, we were $44 million in the hole at one point,
right.
And it looked like this thing was going to get shut down more than once.
As a matter of fact, did you not pick up the phone? If I read my notes right, you picked up the phone and said, should we sell this thing?
No. Lorenzo called me.
Oh, he called you.
Yeah.
You were still the believer.
Yeah, no, those 2 were spending all the money. So Lorenzo called me and said, I can't keep doing this. You know, we're at that time, I think we were 30-something in the hole. And he says, I can't keep doing this. Get out on the streets and see what you can get for this thing right now. So I was on the phone all day making calls. I called him that night and said, I know I can get $4 million for it, maybe 6. And he said, I'll call you in the morning. So I knew for a fact it was over.
Yeah.
I told our attorney that night, this thing's getting shut down, it's over. And the next morning, Lorenzo called me and said, fuck it. Keep going. Let's keep doing it. So,
he said the heck with it?
Yep, the heck with it. Let's
Excellent.
keep going. So we kept going, and thank God.
Well, how did you make the turn? Because just because a guy says, no, we're keeping it, it's only $4 million, let's go. You had to do something. I mean, either mentally
Well,
or...
we were already
how'd you
there.
do it?
I think, you know, we were already on the right path. It was growing. Things were happening. It was just a matter of, you know, those guys, you know, having the cojones to keep it going and keep dropping the money into it, because there's no guarantee that that money was ever going to come back or that this thing was ever going to work. You know, I was already, to say that to say that I could possibly work any harder than I already was not, I mean, we really, and this is, I'm not bullshitting you guys, we didn't sleep at all. I didn't sleep for 2 years. And, you know, we just kept plugging along. I always believed in this thing. I knew that once we could get this thing to the masses, I felt people would love it. And the hardest part was you got to understand this, to get this thing on free television. When we bought this company, it wasn't allowed on pay-per-view. Porn is on pay-per-view.
No, it's not, is it?
The UFC was not allowed on pay-per-view. And our goal was to get it on free television, which everybody said was impossible.
Right.
There's no way, they won't even let it on pay-per-view. There's no way that this thing will make it onto free television.
And Spike was there.
Yeah, yeah. Then, you know, a new network came out and labeled itself as the Men's Network. You know,
Seems
we
like a
sat
pretty
down,
good
we
fit.
talked to everybody. I mean, we went out, we talked to every network that was out there, but even Spike at the time was not willing to pay for it. You know, we put up the money for the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, $10 million. So that was like the last shot. I mean, we put up the last 10 million, and if this thing didn't work, it would have been over.
But all along the way, you're building your brand, though. You were building the brand of UFC, right? And what makes the brand of UFC are the fighters, the card, the excitement, the thrills that are going on there. Were you doing anything differently? What were you looking for as far as fight cards? When you're putting stuff together, you knew you had to have winners. You had to have some excitement.
I think there's a combination. I think that one of the things that we did is we revolutionized the fight industry. We changed it forever. And what we did was, you know, boxing, I've used boxing as the roadmap of what not to do. I looked at all the mistakes that they had made. I looked at some of the things that I thought they did right. And one of the things about the UFC is that those 3 letters, that brand, UFC plus some superstars equals success for everybody.
Right.
You know, and the difference is in boxing right now, you'll have a one-off fight. You know, 2 guys will fight and you won't see or hear anything again for a year, you know, a year and a half, and then there's another fight. With the UFC, inside that brand, you know, you build this brand and these fighters live inside this brand. You can keep promoting, it never stops, it keeps rolling, and you have these fans out there that you can keep hitting with the message, here's the next fight, here's the next guys that are coming up. And one of the other things that we did is, you know, inside this brand, these fighters live forever. They live forever inside the UFC brand. So as you saw in boxing, you'd see these guys that would fight for a while, then they'd go away, then, you know, eventually there'd be some sad story about their life and where they are now and how they lost all their money, or, you know, some bad thing happened to them. And one of the things that we've worked on and what we're trying to do now is all these different ancillary items that we're building, whether it's the UFC video game, the action figures, or the cards, and all the other things we're working on. You know, when a guy retires, he'll still get royalties from all these different, you know, things that we're offering to the fans. For instance, when's the last time you saw Roddy Piper wrestle? You know, last time he wrestled was back in the 80s. Roddy's sitting on a couch somewhere getting royalties on his action figure that they still sell in the stores. You think Michael Spinks is getting any royalties anywhere? You know, he's not. And that's one of the things that we're working hard on right now too, is you know, taking care of the guys who took care of us and helped us build this business.
Has everybody seen this? Can I get a shot of this, Randy? It's at a newsstand near you. Talking about brand, you're pretty happy about this, are you not?
It was our first shot at a magazine, and you know, and like any other business you get into, the magazine business is pretty tough. You know,
you need support, right? You need people to buy ads.
You need to know how to make a magazine too. You know,
storytelling.
Yeah. The other thing we did is we looked at the fight magazines, and we looked at the things that we thought they did wrong and things that they thought they did right, and we gave it a shot.
You know,
I wasn't supposed to be the cover, actually. It was supposed to be.
He's awfully handsome. Get a shot of that, really.
It was supposed to be.
Did they do any air touching up at all? Because, come on, you look pretty good.
They might have. I don't know.
Zoom in on it, Randy. Come on. Come in tight.
We shot another cover shot for that thing.
They never listened.
Being part of the problems, you know, in any business you have, we shot a different cover, and it had, you know, all the guys from UFC 100 on the cover, and the picture didn't work. It was horrible.
But, you know, you're part of this brand, too, though. I mean, you
that was the last minute. We had to go with that one, so. Sorry, guys.
You know, one thing about brands, though, if they tie you with UFC too much and something happens to you, does the brand still live if you go away?
Yeah.
Listen, you're conscious.
We're building a sport right now. We're building a global sport. And I was just telling somebody earlier, you know, my goal in this whole thing right now, you know, is probably the end game for me, is when this is a sport all over the world. That's what I'm really driving and working hard for right now. For instance, soccer. The same game of soccer that we play here in the United States is the same game that they play in Mexico, Canada, Spain, Italy, France, all over the world. That's what we're working toward right now, to build this thing into a global sport where everybody plays by the same rules. That's my job right now. That's what I'm doing. Once I've done that, it's probably over for me. UFC lives forever. I'm not the UFC. I'm a guy who's just out there doing my part right now.
You're doing a good job. You know, partnerships are very important with businesses, alliances, looking at people, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, partnerships. You entered into a partnership with Century. They're helping you out.
Yeah.
Here's one. They supported you. They bought ads, which is good. It's good.
Thank you, guys.
You could have done a 2-page spread, Dan.
Or 4.
4-page spread. As a matter of fact, you could add the back cover. Gloves, boxing, but having partnerships and business partnership is very important.
Yeah, and you know, it meant a lot to us. When we first did our deal with Century, you know, not only were we fighting for legitimacy with the mainstream, you know, for people to accept these guys as athletes and to really understand what mixed martial arts was all about, but, you know, to be accepted by the martial artists too. So when we started, you know, being accepted and brought to things like this and talking to the martial artists and with Century and Black Belt and all these other people, you know, it was a proud moment for me too. I feel that was one of the milestones in UFC history.
Well, talking about big things, there's a guy here in the room that's achieved some big things. I want to bring him up. He is a remarkable fighter and probably one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. Talking about living within the brand, Mr. Matt Hughes. Let's give it up. Come on, let's go. You're on. Come on in. Yeah, you gotta keep clapping until he hits his mark. You're fine. Hey, brother. How's it going, Matt?
Good.
Let's talk about this Friday. This really is history. It's amazing. What are your thoughts on this card, and what goes through your mind from the day you got in the first ring, the first time you stepped in, to what? Talk about the arc that this guy has made happen.
This guy right here. You know, it's funny. When I got in this sport, it was a lot different. It was just, the fighting was underground, and maybe you ran across somebody who knew about it. But now, I mean, I can't walk through an airport or anywhere without somebody saying, hey, you're that UFC fighter, Matt Hughes. So, I mean, it's changed a lot in a lot of ways. So, I mean, he's definitely done his job. I really credit three things to the UFC being as big as it is. Number one is Zuffa. When they come in, they started doing some things right. Number two is Spike TV. And number three is Ultimate Fighter. Those three things together have really put the sport where it's at today.
You know, it's what I would think that really helped the success too is that you really put your money where your mouth was. These guys weren't making 500, maybe in the beginning they were making 50 bucks in a hotel room down the strip. But you stepped up. The money started coming in when pay-per-view started happening. You were supporting these fighters. You believed it. You were investing in them, right? You changed things.
The way that it happened, and he knows this. I mean, and I say it publicly all the time. I'm not saying it because he's sitting there. You know, he's one of the guys who helped us build this business. Him, Chuck Liddell, Rich Franklin, and a bunch of other guys who were literally partners to us. Guys that, you know, we were able to, you know, work with and literally build a business with. You have to have, like I said, I can put on all the bells and whistles and do all the things. At the end of the day, these guys come in and do their job, and there was a level of respect and trust and friendship and everything with these guys, and they helped us build this business. And when I was saying living inside the brand, him, Chuck Liddell, and many, many other guys from the Forrest Griffins to this and that are going to be with us forever till the day, you know, it's over. You know, guys who really stuck by us through the hard times, and you know, I had competitors coming after me left and right, and people trying to, you know, come in, and I had guys who really stood by me and were my partner.
You know, we've got an awful lot of disciplines out here. You know, a lot of different martial artists. How does UFC and the martial arts work? I mean, is it a good blend? I mean, they're obviously supporting you here, but when you're in the ring, talk about some of the disciplines that they study all the time that make it work.
Well, if you look at, you know, Machida, he's put karate back on the map. I mean, so...
Karate!
It's, you know, the UFC is one of those things where you can walk in and you bring your own toolbox with you.
Okay.
I can bring that toolbox and it can have anything I want. I can have wrestling in there, karate, sumo, you know, I can have anything I want in there. American boxing, kickboxing, it doesn't matter. So you bring any discipline into that octagon you want, and you can use it effectively. So, I mean, the UFC doesn't say, hey, you got to do this, this, and this. They say, hey, get in there and compete, and if you're good, we'll keep you, and if you're not putting on a good show and you're not winning, you know, you're gonna have to fight harder and show yourself somewhere else.
You know, UFC 100 is history. You are making history. I got to imagine that was a lot of pressure on you to put a card together that was going to live up to this historic moment. Do you feel confident that you built the card that's going to make it what it should be?
You know, we always put that pressure on ourselves. I think that every time, one of the things that I think consumers have learned about the UFC is, you know, when you buy a UFC event, you're going to get an entire card stacked with great fights, which is one of the things that I got from boxing. And boxing, You know, how many times did you get together with your buddies? The big fight's coming up on Saturday. We can't wait. And they'd have that one fight. It's the only fight anybody cared about. And then the fight sucked. And you're sitting there going, they did it to me again. Boxing got me again. You know, when you stack your card, you know, with 5 great fights on the pay-per-view, you're going to get some good fights no matter what. So I always put that pressure on us. And we always have to deliver good cards.
It's hard for the UFC because on paper, a fight can look awesome. You know, so-and-so versus so-and-so, and it's going to be a great fight. It go out there and it could end in 7 seconds.
Right.
So, I mean, they've got a tough job putting these fights together.
But you know what? And to give credit to all the fighters that fight in the UFC, this is UFC 100 coming up. We bought the UFC at UFC 30, and I could literally count on one hand how many times you bought a UFC pay-per-view and it sucked. Okay, it's going to happen sometimes, because let me tell you what, the Super Bowl isn't the best football game you've ever seen all the time, and the World Series isn't the greatest baseball game you've ever seen, but these guys come out and deliver every time they fight.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the card. What are you looking forward to seeing this Friday? What are you looking forward to seeing? Who do you want to see do something really special?
There's some even matchups, which that's always what you want to try and do is put an even matchup together. You know, Murr and Lesnar, very interesting. If I was here and I didn't see Frank's last fight, I'd say it'd be a landslide and Brock was going to kill him. But I tell you what, Frank's last fight, he looked great against Nogueira. So I mean, I think that's pretty even right now, to be honest. Thiago and GSP. Thiago's very quick with his punches and kicks. The stand-up, I think, goes to Thiago, but the groundwork and the submissions I'd give to GSP. So I mean.
I don't think people are giving that fight enough credit and what a threat this is to GSP's title. I mean, when you think about it, the last 2 guys that GSP beat were 155 pounders. This kid that he's fighting, this kid cuts down from 200 pounds. He's huge. This is a serious, serious fight for George St. Pierre. You know, this is going to be a tough fight for him.
Let's talk about what's your favorite fight over UFC? It's 100, but there's been a lot of fights. Is there a fight that you recall? Could be your own. What was your favorite fight in the UFC? What's that one that was just blew you away?
Probably my favorite fight to go back and watch was Chuck Liddell, 37.5 when he fought Vitor Belfort. That was back. I don't know. I forgot what casino it was.
Yeah, it was at the Bellagio.
Yeah,
the Bellagio Ballroom.
I remember watching that fight, and it was just a great fight. Chuck's a personal friend of mine, and it was just it was a big hype matchup. Those two fighting, they both got knocked down, and finally Chuck knocked him down in the 3rd round, ended up getting the decision. But it was a great fight, 37.5.
Has there been anything that has surprised you right off the top of your head when you're putting these events together in these fights, but when 2 fighters go in there and they're ready to go, they both believe they're going to win? Was there one where you just started scratching your head, I don't believe this result? Was there like a...
Oh, God.
give me a couple.
There's so many of those. I mean, that's what makes this sport so exciting. I mean, you can think that you know who's going to win and what's going to happen. This guy's definitely going to... Matt Serra and George St. Pierre. I mean, there was no doubt in anybody's mind that George St. Pierre was going to win that fight. And then the way that it ended in the 1st round. I mean, there's just so many of those where you think somebody's going to win and somebody else. I quit trying to figure it out a long time ago. Whatever happens, happens.
Did you have any idea that you'd be, when you were wrestling, you started, right? When did you start?
Freshman in high school.
Freshman in high school. Did you have any idea this was going to happen to you? Your career would have become what it has?
I should be home working on my farm right now, no doubt. I mean, that's who I am. That's why I relate to everybody so well. It's because I'm that country boy that grew up on the west side of town. Took up wrestling in high school, brought me to college, and I got done wrestling in college, and I was coaching college wrestling. So I'm watching my guys from the corner. They're out there competing, and I just wanted to compete. Took this sport up just as a hobby, just as a way to compete. That's it.
I remember one night, me and Matt were in Miami, walking down, Miami Beach Boulevard there, and I was talking to him, and I was like, listen, I got some ideas, I got some plans for this thing, just stick with this, stick with me, stick with this. We're gonna blow this thing up. We're gonna make. You remember that night?
I do.
We're gonna make this thing big.
We were hyping me and Shirk. I forgot what UFC it was.
That's right. And I'm like, hang in there. This thing's gonna happen. I promise.
There was a question from the audience that I had. It's kind of a fun one here. Have you ever been approached, either one of you, to be on Dancing with the Stars?
I have not, no.
Yeah, I have.
Let's go! Cue it!
Let me tell you what. If I'm dancing, I'm way too drunk. Take me home, please, okay? It ain't happening. I don't dance. And somebody's doing it, but it's not me. There's no way in hell I would do that. There is no amount of money on earth or PR or anything that would make me do
You
that.
know the fighters better than anybody. Who would be, of all the fighters you know, who'd be the best and who could win Dancing with the Stars?
That's a different side than I see, to be honest. I mean,
Really, personality-wise, put the whole thing together.
This is funny, and you know, Chuck Liddell likes to dance.
Hey! Hey! Chuck!
He likes to dance. I don't know. Chuck does like to dance.
Well, I just want to say that, you know, UFC is amazing. There were a heck of a lot of people that were counting you out a long time, but you had the stick-to-itiveness, right? You had a focus. You had a belief that it could happen. You saw the vision. You knew it. Yeah. And you stuck to it, and you did it.
We're not there yet. We got a long way to go.
Now, you just told me when we started that you got something that, if that breaks, it's going to blow our mind.
We got
Can
a
you
long
just tell
way
us
to go.
there's nobody here?
There's so much work to do. It's easy to sit there and say, wow, look how big this thing has gotten, and I could rattle off stats all day on how big we are, but there's so much work to do still. There's, you know, my end game is when this is a sport all over the world, and we got a lot of work to do. But thank you.
No, really, you guys are terrific. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you, guys.